Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to our conversation. My name is Colm. I'm the youth ministry coordinator here at St. Anne's Parish. And filling in on this side of the couch, going from the hot seat, just like Clark last week. Who do we have here?
I'm Patti Pezlowski, and I'm the children's ministry coordinator here at St. Anne's.
Awesome. Great to have you this year. You've been here a few times, 3, 4 times,
Well,
maybe?
this might be my third or fourth
Maybe your
time.
third, fourth, somewhere in there. Anyway, so you're basically a veteran at this point.
Yeah,
So.
thanks.
But as you see, Father Matt is still on his little vacation. I think he's coming back this weekend soon. He's
Tuesday.
coming back. He's coming back. Don't worry, he's coming back.
After this weekend, he'll be back.
Yeah,
sometime.
exactly.
One more
so
weekend
we've
with
had mostly Father Dennis was been filling in for some of our daily masses and on Sunday. And so last week you got a conversation with me and Clark filling in on Father Matt's homily and was gone. But this time it's just us filling in on Father Dennis's homily, which is it's fun to get kind of a different pace and a different thing going on. And everyone has their own mannerisms. Like there's a giftedness. Like I appreciate Father Matt and what he has to offer us, but sometimes it's good to get a different voice and a different perspective. And but there was a thing that caught you off guard that I think is worth conversation that I'm sure other people noticed. Is what was the thing that you were going to bring up that first caught your eye?
Well, when Father Dennis, after I guess it was Ed read the gospel, and so after Ed was done reading the gospel, then Father Dennis got up and he came to the front, and then he pulled out his phone and he started reading off his phone, and I was kind of like, wait a minute, I thought we weren't supposed to be using phones. Like kids in school, you're not supposed to use phones. In church, I thought you're not supposed to use phones, but he was using his phone, and so that kind of was a little bit of a surprise for me.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's he has his notes and his homily and the readings and the lectionary on his phone because he can amplify it. So I think it's easier to read and. But it is a funny thing, right? That you notice, you're like, oh, it's a weird time to check your text messages. I was like, oh, he's clearly following his homily on there.
Well, and I think that too, the other thing that kind of surprises you is I'm not going to say he's old, but he's older than Father Matthew by quite a bit. And I would expect that coming from a young priest, but not from somebody
there
who's
you go.
so
Father
much older.
Dennis breaking stereotypes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. And it also is an interesting thing. So I just ordered, as we kind of do a check-in as we think of like things in Mass or not. And so it was fine. Father Dennis, you can have your phone if it helps you preach and read the readings and celebrate Mass. But it is sometimes I feel awkward of like, should I bring my phone or journal or whatever because people think you're distracted or going in there. Is we just ordered a bunch of books. You can still get them. You can get on our pre-order that we got is this thing called Every Sacred Sunday. And it's essentially kind of like a Mass journal. And it has like the readings for the upcoming Sunday. And it gives you, and it's just done really nicely and it has a little room for like notes and whatever. And so it's meant to kind of encourage you to like take it to Mass. And if you have homilies, and Father Matt always joked, he's like, you want to make a priest feel good, like take notes during this homily. But then sometimes it's like, oh, people are going to think I'm just like doodling. But I know like I'm a bit of a visual guy. Like sometimes it helps me, like even having a missalette. But I guess the next level of that, so we're excited to give some of these to a bunch of our high school students who are in small groups as a way to kind of journey through the readings and to pray and some of the volunteers. But I love it, and there's something tangible about like an actual book and writing. But there is functionally sometimes like I have apps on my phone that have the readings because
me too.
It's right there.
Yeah.
And there's some Sundays where like I really want to like
I know
because I got kids and Kaylin's 10 months and he's flipping all over the place or I'm out like this Sunday I was out in the welcome area because he just wanted to be free and do his thing. And so sometimes I want to reference or go back and I was like, oh, it's on my phone, but are people going to think like I'm checking Facebook in the middle of Mass? And so if you do, I'm not. I'm trying to look at my readings, but there is that weird tension, right? To say if it is a tool, it can be helpful, and I guess maybe we just have to presume
use our common sense.
Yeah, and presume the good of people, right? Maybe
that's
I
right.
guess.
And I wonder if they shouldn't just like mention that sometime in the Mass. Just say, if it helps you to follow by reading the readings on your phone.
Yeah, I mean we have the missalettes
take notes on your why not?
Feel free, and that was like. This is different than Mass, but as we talk about this idea, is sometimes you almost need permission. Like some say, it's okay to bring a notebook, or it's okay to write when you're talking.
Right. I agree.
And even as a speaker, I would do some of that stuff, and I was like, no, like that shows your engagement,
Right,
and
sure.
someone years ago was like, do you write in books? And I was like, no, who would ever write in a book? Like for most of my life, I was like, never would I like. No, they're like pristine and beautiful, and you smell them, but you don't write in them.
Interesting.
And like textbooks I got maybe, but like actual books or nonfiction or things that I learned. And the guy's like, no, like books are meant to learn and process, and if it helps you, like scribble all over them.
I love that.
And I finally have started to break into that mold, and it's like a whole new world. And I was like, why didn't I do this for 15 years? But it was almost something like, this is like precious, and you have to contain it. And it's I still struggle, like even with the Bible, to highlight and go.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, it's the word. You're meant to like work with it, and that's kind of what we're doing here in a vocal way.
I think one thing I want to say about that is, if I'm taking a class, which I'm taking classes, and I find a book that we're supposed to read and somebody has written stuff in it already, that's like number one, man. Because they've already found the important parts in there that I may need.
That is true. I remember that university. You looked for the already highlighted stuff because it's, it's had a once over already, right? No, that's totally true.
Right.
I found that, maybe this is me nerding out. Do you have separate Bibles for separate type of prayer time?
I do, yeah. I have 2 different kinds, actually, yeah.
Okay, like what purposes do your Bibles serve?
Well, the ones that we use more often, I think I write in them and we do pray out of them. But the ones that I have beside my bed, is not, I don't write in that one. I just read out of it.
It's just like a reading one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of like me. I have one that's like my like speaking Bible. That sounds weird, but like when I'm giving a presentation or a talk or whatever, it's just a nice one that I like to like read the word from.
Right.
So I have lots of bookmarks in it, but I don't highlight it. It's also like the paper is very flimsy.
Mm-hmm. Mine's like that too.
It like to mark it would just bleed through and run through. Where I have kind of like a quote unquote like a study Bible where it's like, scratch it up and go. But
for sure.
Anyways, feel free to comment if you're like me and you hesitate to write but giver it, dive into the word. And I guess we'll do that here vocally. Let's dive into what Father Dennis gave us and what the readings gave us. So we're going to talk about Caesar and God a little bit. So we're talking about some money, but not, maybe we are, maybe we aren't. So essentially it's that classic. I think it's a very short but a pretty classic, well-known gospel. This idea of give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, give unto God what is God. And Father Dennis had some, I would say, a take that was pretty practical, and then there was one that kind of surprised me a little bit. Your first reactions, or what did you
to the gospel itself? Yeah. Well, I remember this gospel when I was a kid, and because my dad was a big money guy, and so we talked about this gospel at home when we were kids. And I didn't know what Caesar meant, but I knew he was like some big guy that got the money. But that wasn't the same as us, because my mom was not the money guy. She was the teach you about the Bible person. And so she's like, yeah, but it's not the same because we belong to God. And so because we belong to God, we have to give ourselves to God. So I always think of that whenever I hear this reading or sermon from somebody. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard to not go to one extreme or the other. And I think Father Dennis tried to, handle that well, right? Is to say, Jesus is not like, he has lots to say about the Romans and the occupied,
right,
and the Jews and the authorities of the time, but he doesn't totally like just throw them away, right? He says like Father Dennis was like, pay your taxes.
That's right.
Good Christian pays their taxes. Like, be a good citizen is how I heard it, right? To say like they're not separate things.
Right.
There's separate duties, but they're tied together, right? You can give what Caesar needs, but also remember what God requires of you, right? And they're not mutually exclusive. Do that piece, but also this is maybe the more critical piece. This is what this is really tied to, right? Like, and I guess I was just thinking in my brain of, I connected with his first part where I think he even said it before he got into that little piece of, he talked about the Supreme Court nominee is Amy Coney Barrett, and just the whole premise to kind of where this gospel comes, which I found interesting. Sometimes we don't focus on it, that he's like, really, what was the whole situation around it? It was another example of them trying to
trick him
and try to trap him, get him in trouble, right? So they could report him. And Jesus always finds a way, right? He always speaks
Figures it
truth
out.
and figures it out. I mean, makes sense. He's
Yeah,
God.
of course.
And I like that he kind of connected, not to get like super crazy political or whatever, but it was during the week when all you saw were these hours of questions
For her.
going to this, this very intelligent, wonderful woman, just getting drilled. And I have to say, I didn't watch all that stuff because, well, I'm not
It's
a
too
huge
much,
politician,
yeah.
and it's overwhelming. But
Yeah.
I was like Father Dennis, like mesmerized. What's the word?
Mesmerized?
There you go. Of kind of in a certain similar way that she just managed to always, stay on target. This is the Star Wars guy, man, stay on target, and just like stay to the truth, stay to the message, and just not get like, she never got flustered. She always kind of had it together, and and kind of just knew what she was about, and even sometimes a couple times like she named out like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to go there? I'm not gonna go there. And just Father Dennis kind of focused on the idea of like, are we that solid, in that same sense, the same way that like Christ knew what was happening and knew how to give the right answer, really point to what was the real thing that was going on, what was the bigger question. And Amy was maybe a good example of somebody who was very well prepared, right, and was confident and assured and knew, how to handle it. And I thought it was like, yeah, I wouldn't be ready for that at all. I mean, most of us aren't called to that, but even just to like, I guess what I took from Sunday, even that little snippet from Father Dennis is like, am I even comfortable just to give a defense of my faith? Like a very simple thing, maybe compared to the questions she was getting. And I don't know. I don't know if I'm that confident. I don't know.
And he was like, Jesus was so smart that he never ever, picked one side or the other. And I don't know that I would be that smart. Like, I feel like I would have a side and I would say, oh, well, whatever. Don't worry about the taxes. Don't pay the taxes because you're all about God. And so, but I might have flubbed that up, but Jesus didn't flub it up. So
I had read a book at one point that kind of reminded us that, yes, we believe Jesus fully God, but is fully man and was a fully Jewish man, and so his tradition is, you see in these stories of like, he's well read,
Yes.
he would have known his faith, and
Right.
so these times when he's quoting scripture, not just because he's God, but just the
Right.
fact of, being a son, like
taught.
he would have known these rules, he would have known these things. And I love when we pull back that piece of like, he would have known the greater context of the situation, right?
For sure.
And it's interesting to think about that, right? Is do we sometimes have a, even a self-awareness that this may be offshoot, but it just goes back to kind of what Father Dennis was going on. Not so much the story in the scripture, but just this idea of like, am I attuned to maybe when people come at me or challenge me, like what's really going on?
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll have questions or someone will drill me on a certain dogma or teaching of the faith. And yes, I could just like give that answer. And sometimes that can be combative, but like I try to pause back and be like, where's this coming from?
True.
Sometimes there's a
Good
seeking
point.
or sometimes
Yeah,
there's
that's
like
true.
there's a hurt or there's a pain. And sometimes like literally answering the question isn't
The answer.
what people want, and maybe this is another great example of Jesus kind of
Yeah.
doing that, right? To say, I'll answer your question, but I'll really teach you what you really need to learn, right?
Yeah, and it's funny when we because I'm thinking about sacramental prep now, and I know I'm going to have a bunch of parents coming, and some of them will know more than me, and some of them maybe will be on the same place as I am or somewhere else. How do I make sure that I can figure out who needs a different answer than just the standard answer? So that's kind of a tough point for me to think about. I really got to say, I need your help, God, because he can help me make those decisions, I guess, of who I need to just get a straight answer to and who I need to see what else they need.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. And there's like a humility to that too, right? To say, we can just know the right answer, the teaching, the dogma,
Right.
the doctrine, and we should give that answer. We should catechize, it's our
Right,
job
sure,
to
of
form
course.
young people and children and parents, and to help the parents in doing that. But yeah, it's like, but what's the other lesson that needs to be provided in this
Right.
opportunity? And, I was just reading today as we're starting up some more of our high school small groups. We have, I think, 3 of them right now, maybe a 4th. Hopefully we can get going, and which is exciting, and that's kind of a better way for us to gather right now anyways. And, I was looking to be like, okay, what am I going to do? What's the curriculum? I go in there, and I was just reading kind of a resource on kind of discipleship and small group ministry. And they're like, it's not about content. And especially now more than ever. And it wasn't trying to like underplay that.
Right.
But it was saying like right now there's a thirst for connection and relationship. And from that will come kind of the questions and the seeking, that will be kind of raised up, and which I think I already knew, but it was just like, okay, Colm, like, yes, give unto Caesar, like do the practical stuff, but also, give unto God what is God, right? And I was telling you right before we record, maybe this is my philosophy. I'm trying to think about youth ministry, but also in my own family is give unto God what is God's. Well, what is God's? Well, it's myself, it's you.
Yeah.
But I was thinking like my kids, like my family, right? Like, as we think of taxes as, it's stewardship as God's gifts, is like, okay, maybe I need to like give up control of the future of my kids, which is like, I mean, I'm on the early curve of the parenting.
Yeah, that's pretty tough to do.
You have a lot more to teach me, but like how hard is that? Like to say, we're going to give them to God? Like, I don't want to do that. I want to hold on to them.
I know it's tough. Sometimes you feel like all the answers. You want your kids to all go on the right path and do the right thing, but sometimes you just have to let them go and make their own mistakes. And they are God's children too, and God will help guide them, I think. I hope.
Yeah, and there's a humility and a trust, right? To say like, we're still going to be there. We're going to catch them when they fall.
Right.
We're going to tell them that they screwed up.
Yeah, exactly.
like Mama knows best, right, Patti? Like you're going to, but
exactly.
But there is a certain level of, surrender that it requires, and
it's actually a good feeling too. Like when you figure it out and you do surrender it and you let God sort of take your place in a way, it does feel good too. Like you feel like, hey, this is good. I can do this. I know God's there and I can do it.
And maybe that's why you're the children's ministry coordinator.
Maybe.
So you can remind parents like us that like every week just send me a voicemail.
Yeah.
Colm, just surrender. It's okay.
Yeah.
Just trust.
Don't worry. It's hard not to worry, but
no, but there is a beauty to that, right? And but it is kind of a you have to give it up. There's
you do.
It's
hand it over.
It's in giving we receive, right? Isn't that St. Francis in that song, or
that's right.
The Beatitudes? It's there is that practice of it, and and I think sometimes, my last thought on this, and you can go where you want, was the give unto Caesar's what is Caesar's. Is I think sometimes I don't give Caesar what is Caesar's.
Yeah.
Like there is that connection where Jesus is saying like, no, like do what the law asks, like
you
do it that, like
do that stuff.
Unless there's a place for like civil disobedience when it makes sense,
right.
But like you can follow me and you can still be a good citizen in this time,
right,
or to do that work. And I think maybe sometimes I might have a temptation to slough off things. And I was like, well, I'm working for the Lord. So,
sure.
Screw the man, or, that type,
right,
type of like personality. But it's like, well, no, like we all have a role to play in this society too. And I know there's elections here, elections of the states, like this is all craziness is going on, but like, we're still called to be part of that process, but in light of it, maybe that second part. I don't know.
That's right. I know. I don't know what to say about that. I think you're right. I think I agree with what you're saying, and I'm going to leave it at that.
So, Patti, are you going to run for office anytime soon?
No. I appreciate people who do that, and I'm really happy that there's people out there that are willing to put their lives towards that, but not me.
Yeah. I always appreciate when people pray for politicians.
Yes.
And I think maybe we need to do that more than ever, is wherever you lie on the spectrum of this, right? Like, it's a major thing to step forward to lead.
It's true.
I think of leading a small little youth group. That's different than trying to lead a country or whatever. And
that's tough too.
You're bound to be open to criticism and questions. And I don't know. I did when I hear stuff of this is like maybe I need to have less opinions and
Yeah.
just pray more.
Maybe so. Oh yeah.
It's
But I was listening to the radio on the way here, and they actually had one of the leaders on. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
you know how the leaders are, they're always like sort of like criticizing each other. But somebody phoned in and said, "So if you don't get into power, how will you work with the other party?" And I thought that is a good question, because really that's what we should be doing, is trying just to work together. Even though somebody might be leading and others following, we still can work together to get the right answer and to get to the right place. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a great way to put it, So, we're giving unto Caesar, but to give God what is God's, right? Is to say, how are we going to use our time and our gifts, for that leader, but just practically for ourselves,
Right.
is how does that play out, And
Yeah.
I had done a dangerous exercise a year or two ago in my, not like physically dangerous, but it might make you curl up and cry.
Oh.
Of basically a time analysis. It was part of this men's group that we have, and you basically had to like track your day, and it was like, how do you spend your time? Like, how much do you give to
Yeah,
work? How much do you
right.
give to leisure? How much do you give to family time? How much do you give to prayer?
Oh. Interesting.
So almost like a literal inventory of like,
Yeah.
and part of it was like giving. You did that with time, but you also did with your treasure, with your finances, and how much are you giving to Caesar? How much are you giving to the
Right.
church? And I'm not here to preach what the right percentages of everything needs to be or any of that kind of stuff, but it was a really humbling exercise just to like, sometimes what we perceive and what is real is not close at all.
True,
And
true.
I
That'd
was
be a
like,
good
man,
exercise
I
to do.
watch way too much YouTube,
Oh,
or
yeah. Oh,
or
jeepers.
listen to too much radio, or like who knows, like.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But it was like, okay, if I am supposed to give God
What is?
most myself, all of
Yeah.
myself, part of that is time. Like, and then he was like, okay, did I get an hour of dedicated prayer in? Like, and I got
know.
young kids, but it's like it's flexible. I have a 20-minute commute twice a day.
You can pray on that commute, right?
Yeah, sometimes my brain is not there, but I could,
Yeah.
and so if you're up for the challenge, try it for a week. That's what I did. I had a little spreadsheet. You can contact me if you want, and you fill in the little boxes, and see how much you're giving out to God, and it may challenge you, may affirm you, it may make you go up in a little ball and cry like it did for me, but it is eye-opening.
I'm going to try that too.
There you go. I'm sure
Starting
your
to-
chart will be more impressive than mine was.
Wow.
But if given unto God is like how many times you're up in the night changing a diaper or something like
Well,
that.
you'll get the big prize on that one.
Well, no, my wife will still win,
Oh.
but I mean,
Well, there you go.
I'll do okay. I'll do
Yeah.
okay. I'll do okay.
Perfect.
But I think we're gonna leave it there.
Sure.
It was short and sweet, but I think reflect on how you're spending your time and your talent, your treasure, where your priorities are at. We're trying to do the same thing. Hopefully, you are, and to know that to be with God is to spend time with God and spend time with each other. And
Right.
hopefully, this little holy off-the-cuff conversation was useful to you, and you can find time in your own life as well. Let us know what struck you, what inspired you, what made you laugh or cry. We'd love to hear from you, and hope you're well. And I think Father Matt will be back with me and somebody else back in the hot seat next week. So until then, be well, and we'll see you soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.